January 27th, 2025. This is your warning that often I record things for the internet content with my children bouncing around in the background, and I have a pretty high bar for what I will talk about my kids with. This is the day that I decided my kids would be somewhere else while I was recording, and that might be your warning that this might not be appropriate for your kids, or it might not be appropriate for you if you don't have bandwidth today, and that's okay. But yeah, here we go. It was on this day, January 27th, 1945, that the Auschwitz and Birkenau concentration camps were liberated by Soviet soldiers. Exactly 2 years before, January 27th, 1943, the Americans had bombed Germany for the first time since entering the war. Exactly 20 years before that, January 27th, 1923, in Munich, Germany's National Socialist Movement, or Nazi Party, held its first rally. If you visit Auschwitz today, there is a process for getting tickets to the tour. The website has information available in English and German, French and Italian, Spanish and International Sign Language. The first page of the training reads, in white letters on gray backing, Auschwitz did not fall suddenly from the sky. Preparation to a visit to the Auschwitz Museum. The details on what was happening inside Germany were murky before the end of the war. In some ways, there was evidence of what was happening. In other ways, so much of the genocide of the concentration camps was hidden away. Universal News Service, the Hearst Journalists, ran an article on March 25th, 1933, with the lead line, Nazis hold 10,000 foes as prisoners. But in the report included, quote, a statement that certain foreign newspapers are printing irresponsible distortions concerning the treatments of the Jews in Germany was issued today by the Central Union of German Citizens of the Jewish Faith. Reports of anti-Jewish atrocities are, quote, pure inventions, the statement said. Much of the transparency of the world had been winnowed down in the decade leading up to this point. The journalist Dorothy Thompson, the wife of author Sinclair Lewis, was part of the removal of transparency in the decade before. She was, reportedly, the first journalist to be expelled by the German government for, quote, damaging Germany in the world press. As she was packing her bags on August 25th, 1934, she gave this statement to the press. Outsiders are warned that Germany has the right to any form of government they choose. I agree to that, and personally, I have consistently opposed all organized attempts, such as a boycott, which aim to reform the government from without. But National Socialism, on its own claims, is not only a system of German government, but is a world outlook which is frankly directed against the liberal and democratic conceptions under which a great part of the world still live, and which, curiously enough, still cherish. The Associated Press, August 27, 1934, posted, it is the sovereign right of any government to expel any foreigner it desires, however innocent of wrong that the alien may be. So none can properly question the legal positions of the Hitlerites in such cases. But one can question seriously the intelligence of the Berlin government. However much Hitler would like to make the world press goose step with the terrorized German press, he ought to know that it is impossible. And he ought to know that expulsion and intimidation of reputable foreign correspondents inevitably produces the belief among foreign readers that the Nazis have something very terrible to hide. When the Soviet troops arrived at Auschwitz, there were 7,000 prisoners still held there. 7,000 prisoners might have felt like a lot, malnourished, ill at the concentration camp, but the scale of the atrocity only became apparent when the materials at the camp were inspected. There were 7 tons of human hair stored in one building at the depot. There were 12,000 pots and pans that had been brought to the camp by people who still believed up until their very arrival that they were being resettled. In total, over 1 million people, 1,100,000 is the low estimate, had been executed at the camp in the previous 5 years since it had opened.